वर्ल्ड ब्याङ्कले गर्छ के चाहिँ?
International Development Association ले चाहिँ नि पैसा रेज गर्छ from more wealthier members अनि low income countriesहरूलाई चाहिँ फन्डिङ गर्छ but with a very small administrative fee attached to it. Developed economiesहरूलाई चाहिँ नि पैसा दिने चलन छैन. Nepal I think is the second poorest country in Asia right now. हाम्रो growth has not been great in the last 40 years. If you are a great artist, you don't necessarily need that byproduct money to come through.
त त्यो एकदम इलाइट लेन्स भएन?
Why? I'm saying there should be a system put in place so that they don't need to struggle financially. How can we be proud as a nation when all these things are crumbling at that level? Right? हामीले फोकस गर्ने भनेको एजुकेसन को क्वालिटी इम्प्रुभ गर्ने नै हो.
एन्टरप्रेन्योरल भेन्चर सुरु गर्नको लागि चाहिँ कतिको च्यालेन्जेसहरू हुँदो रहेछ त?
What is possible or what is not in your own mind. If you work hard in your own area, then resources will flow. Support will come. Others will support you. The network will grow, right? Nobody knows who you really are. The question is how you define success. Helping young people to define what success is also a task, I think.
अरुण सर, स्वागत छ हाम्रो पडकास्टमा.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay.
You have a tight schedule. You're returning back on Wednesday, no?
Yeah.
6 months Nepal, 6 months US.
It's turning out to be like that. I mean, it was 4 months, but now it's 6 months. 6 months. We'll see.
हाम्रो एन्डबाट हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ it looks so, maybe it is, हुन्छ नि, amazing privilege to travel between two countries, your home countries and your country that you have really worked upon, होइन? तर I understand त्यसको आफ्नै pros and cons छ होला, होइन?
Yeah, I mean everything in life I think has its pros and cons. So it's not as you make decisions for a certain reason, and when you start implementing it, there are problems that are generated. And so yes, it's nice to be back home, and yes, it's nice to go back to the US, but the hassles of travel, the hassles of settling in both places, त्यो त गाह्रो हुन्छ नि. So
नम्बर्समा कन्भर्ट गर्यो भने त युएस र नेपालमा हजुरले बिताएको टाइम 40-60%, 60-40% नै होला है आफ्नो.
Oh, in terms of the total amount of time?
Okay, maybe मैले चाहिँ in terms of life भन्नु नसोच्दै थिएँ होला.
Yeah.
है?
So in terms of my lifetime, I mean, I've spent the last 40 years in the US. I landed in the US on September 1st, 1985. And on and off. I've been here quite a lot too, but on and off. That's when I started. So 85 to 25 makes it 40 years this coming September.
Okay.
And I was only, I'll disclose my age now. I was only 21, 22 when I went there. So it's a long time. 2/3 of my life in the US.
हजुरको लिङ्क्डइन हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ भेरी के भन्छ एस्पिरेसनल करियर ट्रेजेक्टरी के हुन्छ नि. अब इभन द फर्स्ट 23 years वर्ल्ड ब्याङ्कमा यु हेभ वर्कड एज अ लिड एजुकेसन स्पेसलिस्ट, होइन? द्याट्स अ लङ टाइम. द्याट्स अ प्रिटी लङ टाइम.
Yeah, it's a long career at the World Bank. तर कोही मान्छेहरू त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ नि अलिकति लामो नै हाम्रो बेलासम्म पनि. There used to be people who worked there for 30-35 years. Even so, I left a little bit earlier than most people in that category. I joined in 93. So you mentioned lead education specialist. I mean, that was not my only position throughout. I joined as a young professional, as they call it, for for those who joined the bank before the age of 32. And then I worked in different parts of the world, mostly focused on Middle East countries. So we lived as a family in Yemen for 3 years. This was pre 9/11, 97 to 2000.
अलिक पिसफुल थियो त्यति बेला
त्यो बेलामा अलि peaceful थियो. And then we were back in the U.S. As the kids were growing up, and then back again in Tanzania for 5 years when I was responsible for more countries than one in East Africa. And then back again to the U.S. So it wasn't just Washington D.C. It was in different parts of the world. There are mostly Middle East, which included many countries: Egypt, Jordan, West Bank, Gaza, all these countries to begin with, and then Africa later on, which included many countries in East and Southern Africa.
हजुरले वेस्ट ब्याङ्क गाजा भनेपछि चाहिँ मलाई सोध्न मन लागेको चाहिँ does it feel painful to see what is happening right now?
No, very painful to see what is happening in the Middle East, especially in West Bank, Gaza. It's such a long, conflict, never seems to get resolved, and the last few years have been extremely difficult for the people there. Yeah.
At the end of the day, आफू जहाँ काम गऱ्यो जुन ठाउँमा बस्यो the pain is real के हुन्छ नि even though
It's absolutely you get attached to that place. You get attached to the you love the people, you love the food, the environment, the climate, all of that. So Middle East is very dear to me because worked there for so long, so many friends. Palestinian people are really nice people, very friendly, very fun-loving, sense of humor. And imagine just being, put in this kind of situation. Yeah, it's very tough. I mean, there are issues on both sides, of course. It's a complicated issue, and I don't think we can get into that fully today. But
the question was mostly towards the emotional side, but the relativity.
From the emotional side, it's absolutely.
You, म के बच्चामा हुँदाखेरि मलाई कस्तो लाग्थ्यो वर्ल्ड ब्याङ्क चाहिँ इज लाइक एनी रेगुलर ब्याङ्क अनि वर्ल्ड ब्याङ्कमा गएर खाता खोल्ने हो होइन अनि मेबी अलिकति हाई प्रेस्टिजियस पिपल गेट्स टु ओपन अ ब्याङ्क एकाउन्ट इन वर्ल्ड ब्याङ्क होइन त्यस्तो लाग्थ्यो मलाई भरे त अर्कै रहेछ होइन अब इफ आई आस्क अ भेरी लेमन क्वेसन टु यु आफ्टर स्पेन्डिङ अलमोस्ट 23 years इन वर्ल्ड ब्याङ्क होइन वर्ल्ड ब्याङ्कले गर्छ के चाहिँ गर्छ चाहिँ के
Well, World Bank को different sort of parts हरू छ एउटा चाहिँ नि International Development Association जुन चाहिँ नि poor countries हरूलाई very more developed countries. First of all, World Bank Group is it's basically owned by all the countries of the world who are members, right? So different countries have different shares in the World Bank. U.S. being the largest shareholder also appoints the president of the World Bank, and the president of the U.S. appoints the president of the World Bank. So त्यो कन्टेक्स्टमा त्यो ग्रुप भन्दाखेरि इन्टरनेसनल डेभलपमेन्ट एसोसिएसनले चाहिँ नि पैसा रेज गर्छ फ्रम मोर वेल्थियर मेम्बर्स अनि पुरेस्ट कन्ट्रिज लो इन्कम कन्ट्रिजहरूलाई चाहिँ नि त्यसलाई इट्स नट अ लोन इट्स बेसिकली चाहिँ नि यो funding garcha, but with a very small administrative fee attached to it. So not like a big lending process jasto hudaina. Tyo चाहिँ नि developing countries लाई हुन्छ. Every 3 years IDA को replenishment हुन्छ. The last replenishment I think is just around now or has happened or what. I think it has reached 100 billion. So that 100 billion goes to all the low income countries as allocations based on their performance, all sorts of calculations को आधारमा उनीहरूले त्यो पठाउँछ. Then there is the IBRD, which is usually the more अलिकति more advanced countries हरूलाई उनीहरूले चाहिँ नि regular खालबाट lending गर्ने उनीहरूको चाहिँ नि performance र विभिन्न criteria हेरेर त्यो पैसा चाहिँ नि international marketबाटै borrow भएर अनि त्यो lend हुन्छ. त्यसमा चाहिँ नि अलिकति percentage नै लागू हुन्छ, अलिकति stringent criteria हुन्छ त्यसमा चाहिँ नि.
Or more developed economy को लागि
अलिकति more middle income हरूको लागि हैन. Developed economies हरूलाई चाहिँ नि पैसा दिने चलन छैन हैन, because then there's the whole purpose is to sort of lift the others up भन्ने context भयो. एउटा अब त्यो ग्रुपमा IFC पनि छ, International Finance Corporation, त्यसले चाहिँ नि more private sector सँग directly investment bank जस्तो गरिकन काम गर्छ. अनि लास्ट वान चाहिँ नि मिगा भन्ने पनि छ, मल्टिल्याटरल इन्भेस्टमेन्ट ग्यारेन्टी एजेन्सी. त्यसले चाहिँ नि अलिकति इन्भेस्ट गर्दा प्राइभेट सेक्टरको इन्भेस्टमेन्ट गर्दाखेरि कति देशहरूमा इन्स्योरर्सहरूले इजिली इन्स्योर गर्दैन उनीहरूको इन्भेस्टमेन्ट्सलाई. सो दिस इज अ आर्म द्याट हेल्प्स विथ द इन्स्योरिङ द इन्भेस्टमेन्ट्स इन complicated settings. कुनै कन्फ्लिक्टले गर्दा होला के होला जुन कुराले गर्दाखेरि रेगुलर इन्स्योरेन्स कम्पनीजले बाहिरको इन्भेस्टर्सको इन्भेस्टमेन्टलाई उ गर्दैन. बेसिकली दे डोन्ट इन्स्योर देम. सो दिस इज द ग्रुप द्याट एक्चुली हेल्प्स विथ द्याट. सो त्यो चारवटालाई कम्बाइन गर्दाखेरि वर्ल्ड ब्याङ्क ग्रुप भनिन्छ. So basically that's what it is. I don't know if I've answered your question.
To some extent, yes. अनि त्यसमा चाहिँ lead education specialist भनेको चाहिँ
अब each of the sectors को अब अहिले नै पनि के भइरहेछ त्यहाँको सिस्टम त मलाई थाहा छैन, but usually हाम्रो पालीमा lead is a top technical position, and that is it's technical. And so therefore you are dealing with more, so in my case dealing with more on the education policy, programming, र चाहिँ नि हामीले गर्ने knowledge products हरूलाई guide गर्ने, teamsहरूलाई guide गर्ने. Each of the regions of the World Bank will have one or two of these lead people in each of the sectors. So health sector मा होला, education sector मा होला, agriculture sector ma hola, all of the big sectors that the bank operates in will have those people in each of these regions usually. And ani त्यो region को अब भनौँ न teamsहरूले गर्ने programming, policy development in different countries of that region. Like I was working before I left in East and Southern Africa. So there were about I think almost as many as 25 countries, going all the way from Ethiopia and Eritrea all the way down to South Africa. So त्यो चाहिँ नि region हाम्रो थियो. अनि त्यो region त्यो आफ्नो regionमा teamsहरूलाई support गर्ने त्यस्तो काम हुन्छ.
अनि education वरिपरिको
अब in my case it was education. There would be lead, there might be a lead transport specialist or lead and at the bank there are also a lot of quite a number of lead economists who are just leading and thinking about economic policies, macroeconomic issues, त्यस्तो कुराहरू पनि उनीहरूले हेरिरहेको हुन्छ.
यो चाहिँ अनि हजुर अनि सपोर्ट गर्ने भनेको त फन्डले नै सपोर्ट गर्ने हैन, बेसिकली सजेसन दिएर मात्र त हुँदैन होला.
सो बेसिकली हाम्रो त्यो टिमहरूले के गर्छ भने प्रत्येक कन्ट्रीमा आफ्नो टिमले प्रोग्राम डेभलप गर्छ हैन. अनि त्यो सेक्टरको टिम्सहरू हुन्छ, अहिले ग्लोबल प्र्याक्टिसेस भन्छ. अनि कन्ट्रीको म्यानेजमेन्ट टिम हुन्छ जुन कन्ट्री डाइरेक्टरले लिड गर्छ. कन्ट्री डाइरेक्टरले चाहिने मेन पट राख्या हुन्छ फन्डको. अनि सेक्टर्स र कन्ट्री डाइरेक्टरको टिमले मिलेर त्यो फन्डिङ पटलाई कसरी डिस्ट्रिब्युट गर्ने इन कोलाबोरेसन विथ द गभर्मेन्ट अफ कोर्स केमा हाल्ने त भनेर फाइनेन्स मिनिस्ट्री इज युजुअली इन्भल्भ एज द मेन पार्टनर इन द्याट डिस्कसन अनि त्यसको आधारमा डिसिजन गरेर ल ओके नेपालमा वी आर गोइङ टु इन्भेस्ट दिस कमिङ त्यो कन्ट्री पार्टनरसिप स्ट्राटेजी भन्ने बन्छ 2-3-4 वर्षको लागि अनि त्यो 3-4 वर्षको लागि चाहिँ नि हामीले यो सेक्टरमा यति फन्डिङ एलोकेट हामीले गर्ने भनेर अनि त्यो डिसिजन द्याट्स अनि त्यो डिसिजन भइसकेपछि द टिम्स आर अल्सो देन दे प्रिपेयर प्रोजेक्ट्स अनि त्यो प्रिपरेसनमा अब लट अफ इन्टर्नल रिभ्युज हुन्छ डिस्कसनहरू हुन्छ एन्ड देन इट्स delivered, it's negotiated with the government, and then त्यो funding चाहिँ नि आउँछ त्यो funding पनि फेरि usually there is a sense in Nepal that सबै पैसा 100 मिलियन दियो भने सबै 100 मिलियन एकै बाजी दिने भन्ने त्यस्तो होइन क्राइटेरिया हेरेर यति गर्दै गएपछि पर्फर्मेन्स हेरेर त्यसको आधारमा अहिले त झन् पर्फर्मेन्स बेस्ड काइन्ड अफ लेन्डिङ हुन्छ त्यसले गर्दाखेरि उनीहरूले पर्फर्मेन्स कस्तो छ सर्टन
चाहिँ के हो
होइन पर्फर्मेन्स भनेको चाहिँ नि अहिले चाहिँ नि कस्तो छ भने मेनी प्रोजेक्ट्स चाहिँ नि त्यो खालि तिमीलाई यो गर्नको लागि पैसा यति भनेर दिने भन्दा पनि तिमीले यो अचिभ गर्यो भने म तिमीलाई यति पैसा दिन्छु भन्ने
आउटपुट ड्रिभन
it's much more results based rather than just input driven okay so त्यो approach ma धेरै programs haru gaira so which is a good thing which is really good I think it's a very innovative model to do development
जस्तै एक्जिक्युसन गर्नको लागि त गभर्नमेन्टमै डिपेन्ड भयो फेरि है
Yes, I think for the World Bank, yes. I think, I mean, there is a whole private sector that operates in the education sector.
होइन एक्जिक्युसनको लागि
executionको लागि Yeah, I think so. I mean, even for execution, I think private sector, many countries, have a whole, even in Nepal, private sector le pani execute गर्छ नि तर विश्व ब्याङ्कको फन्डिङ चाहिँ नि एक्जिक्युट गर्नको लागि फर्स्ट इट कम्स टु द गभर्मेन्टसँग मेन कोलाबोरेसन हुन्छ त्यो फन्डिङ कम्स देयर एन्ड देन इज प्राइभेट सेक्टरलाई सपोर्ट गर्ने खालको प्रोग्रामिङ पनि हुनसक्छ बट वन्स इट अराइभ्स टु द गभर्मेन्ट एन्ड देन देयर इज अ मेकानिजम द्याट इज स्पेसिफाइड इन द प्रोजेक्ट or program to then give it out to the NGOs maybe or to the private sector or the public sector itself will implement the programs. The bigger problem right now in Nepal, Anup if I may, is the inability of the government to implement right now. One of my colleagues at the World Bank was telling me that we are ranked last in the world, not only in South Asia or Asia, but in the world on just recently on our disbursement rate. So, अब यस्तो कुरा चाहिँ नि के गर्ने अब यो that means the government is not moving fast enough के
हजुरले भन्न खोज्नु भएको चाहिँ हाम्रो देशमा
हामीलाई एलोकेट गरेको पैसा हामीले स्पेन्ड गर्न सकेको छैन
खर्च गर्न सकिरहेनौँ
यो त कमन नलेज हो होइन त्यो सकिया छैन भनेर तर अरू कन्ट्रीहरूसँग कम्पेयर गर्दाखेरि हामी एकदम तलै छौँ भन्दाखेरि त अलिकति केही विचारै गर्नुपर्ने कुरा भयो नि होइन अब मेनी कन्ट्रिज हेभ दिस प्रब्लम हामी मात्र होइन
तर हामी संसारको नम्बर 1 भयौँ
हामी नम्बर 1 भयौँ भन्दाखेरि त अलिकति बोर हुन्छ अब कहिले माथि कहिले तल पनि हुन्छ and I used to work in Africa where this was a common problem also for many other countries disbursements बढेन भन्ने कुरा तर डिस्बर्समेन्ट त बढाउनको लागि अब के गर्नुपर्छ, एक्जिक्युसन कसरी फास्ट गर्ने, डिसिजन मेकिङ कसरी फास्ट गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने कुरामा फोकस हुनु पर्यो नि. त्यसलाई त सिरियसली गभर्मेन्टले पिकअप गर्नु पर्यो नि यो कुरालाई त.
त्यही त कि गरिब छौँ, ब्याङ्कमा पैसा छ अनि त्यो ब्याङ्ककोमा पैसा युज गरेर गरिबीलाई हटाउनु पर्न पनि सकिराखेनौँ हामी.
Exactly. And this is not money that is very expensive or त्यो धेरै चाहिने इन्ट्रेस्ट रेट वाला त्यो पनि होइन. सो दिस इज अ ग्रेट अपर्च्युनिटी हो नि त यो त होइन. आएको पैसा छ, धेरै इन्ट्रेस्ट रेट छैन, केही छैन, त्यसलाई चाहिँ त तुरुन्तै इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्न पर्ने कुरा हो as fast as possible so we can do different actually get more to do more भन्ने हुनुपर्ने सट्टा एकदम स्लो डिस्बर्समेन्ट भयो कि.
It's no less than a crime, होइन, to not being able to use this fund because maybe lowest level मा चाहिँ there are people who are desperately, people who have skill set, people who have knowledge to execute things, तर राइट फन्ड च्यानलाइज नभएर गर्न पाएको छैन होइन. त्यो त एउटा सिभिल क्राइम नै भएन.
अब I mean, yeah, it's a problem. I mean, I don't want to call it a crime because I think मेरो विचारमा है, knowing the government side and all that sometimes, मेरो विचारमा त्यो disbursement slow हुनुको लागि one of the main reasons might also be just decision making मा एउटा some kind of a freeze के. किनभने there is concern, अब अहिलेको केसमा नेपालमै पनि there is concern that if you decide too quickly, if you give contracts, if you do this, if you do that, गाल आउला, करप्सनको आरोप लाग्ला भन्ने डर पनि might be one of the reasons. So not everything is negative. I mean, in the sense that if that is the case, then okay, well, careful हुनु राम्रो हो. तर अब you can't be so so careful and frozen that you don't even want to spend any dollars. But I'm not even saying that's the case, because there is a lot of rankings that Nepal has not performed well in terms of transparency, in terms of accountability, in terms of corruption. So त्यसले गर्दाखेरि एकदम corruption less भनेर मैले impression दिन खोजेको होइन. I think there is a lot to do on that front also. तर that might be one of the reasons, होइन. So त्यसले गर्दाखेरि त्यो पनि विचार गर्नु पर्यो. But again, I mean, it goes back to the leadership that has to really take this very seriously, and I don't see that happening yet.
हजुरको त्यो अफ्रिकाको लेन्सले हेर्ने हो भने चाहिँ, जस्तै फर इक्जाम्पल कन्सिडरिङ countries in Asia or countries in Africa are going through a similar development need, होइन, कस्तो प्रब्लम्सले चाहिँ यो स्पेन्डिङमा चाहिँ प्रब्लम हुन्छ. हुन त हजुरले भनिहाल्नु भयो, द ल्याक अफ मतलब इनएबिलिटी टु मेक डिसिजन्स, होइन. तर अरू कस्तो रियल प्रब्लम्स हुन्छ होला जुन चाहिँ हजुरले अफ्रिकामा देख्नुभयो फर्स्ट ह्यान्ड, जुन चाहिँ आई थिङ्क नेपालमा पनि त्यही भएको होला भनेर हामीले अज्युम गर्न सक्ने.
I think actually भन्यो भने I think Asia भन्ने त मिलेन, because I think Nepal I think is the second poorest country in Asia right now. By the way, I have to tell you, I mean, when I went, I looked back at the data, and when I left for the US 40 years ago, Nepal was the poorest country in Asia. We were like $196 GDP per capita or something.
This was back in?
This was in 1985.
Wow.
In 1985, if you look at the rankings, we are among the, I mean, we are the poorest country in Asia. 40 years later, as we are discussing today, we are the second poorest in Asia. So, I mean, after Afghanistan. And that's because, it's not because, we've done a little bit better. It's because Afghanistan has done a little bit worse in the interim. So, Bandakheri, I mean, we are a really poor country, and we cannot compare ourselves anymore, I think, to any of the other countries in Asia. In the same way, I think we might as well compare ourselves to many of the sub-Saharan African countries. And त्यहाँ कुरा गर्दाखेरि त्यहाँ पनि many East African countries and even West African countries, some of them are doing really well. They're moving very fast. They are growing very fast. They are putting systems in place, and it's a whole different kind of situation now in Africa. The private sector is booming, and so there is no comparison. त्यो sense. In Africa, they used to say, I mean, in terms of just going back to this corruption issue and all that, they used to say that at least in some of the countries in Africa, you have a situation of, okay, well, at least you spend the money and you get a little cut out of it. And when you spend it, you build dams, you build roads, you do all sorts of things. At least जनतालाई त केही भयो नि, and you get a little slice, and corrupt people get a little slice out of it and move on. अब यहाँ चाहिँ नि अब काम पनि हुन सकेन भन्ने कुरा भयो. But I think it's more complicated in Nepal. I think there are so many different layers of issues that a lot of people have looked into. I'm not really a big expert on the overall development of Nepal, but when I look at it, I really think that we need to put on not just the economist lens, but maybe put on social lens. Okay? And when you look at it from the social lens side, I see maybe there are literally several clusters of lens that people have, I mean, you've got the elite, the educated, they are very supportive of the private sector, the business leaders, all of that. That's one lens. They see their own problems, but they also see the problems of there's a tension with the government and the public sector, and education sector ma त्यस्तै छ नि. I mean, there is a tension between how the government sees the private sector education and how the private operators see the government regulations. So, and then there's the government and the bureaucracy that sees the world in a certain way. There is the now growing diaspora that sees Nepal and Nepalese opportunities and Nepalma आउने नआउने भन्ने decisions-हरु. That's one cluster. They have certain lens that they're putting in. And so what I'm seeing is that these lenses are all seeing somewhat different stories, and there is tension between them. There is no unity in the way, and I'm thinking again, cliche kind of thing. I'm thinking again of something like Singapore. Lee Kuan Yew driving a vision for the country, and then everyone, whether you are a small person, a big person, business leader, whatever, are all aligned with that vision. And so you're helping to execute that vision. So त्यो binding गर्ने एउटा हुन्छ नि, the different lensहरूलाई bind गरेर सँगै लिएर आएर अगाडि drive गराउने leadership को vision. Once again, I mean, that seems to be the lacking situation right now. Okay, so from a more sociological angle, there are some of these more fundamental issues that are plaguing our country than just simply, economic यो गर्न पर्यो, some regulations from Rashtra Bank and this and that, I mean, you can keep doing that, but you're not going to grow in a way that you would want to grow. And growth pani ab kati मान्छेलाई सोध्यो भने sort of the optimists that I meet in Nepal. हाम्रो राम्रो भइरहेछ नि, everything is going well, a lot of people are doing different things. I think that's very much from that elitist lens, right? Because there are a lot of things that are not going so well too. It's okay to be a realist and think about all the things that are not going well. Let's find out what they are and let's try to address them. भन्ने कुरा पनि त हुन्छ नि त. So it's not just a optimist pessimist kind of thing. It's I think you really need to look at what is realistically the case, and realistically hamro growth has not been great in the last 40 years. I mean, when you really look at it, and our ranking, as I told you, we've just gone from the last to the second last. So what kind of growth and development is that? Because all development is comparative. You compare with other countries. And there was a time when, for example, I was still a student, we were looking at data from different parts of the world on mortality declines, child mortality, infant mortality declines. There is hardly a country in the world where mortality has not declined. Every country ma mortality decline garcha. There is not a country, hardly few countries except Haiti and a few others, there's not a country in the world where there is no growth. Growth to huncha. The question is how big is the growth? And is it big enough? And did we do enough? भन्ने क्वेसन पो उठाउनु पर्यो त. अलिकति मोटर चढ्ने अवस्था आउँदैमा काठमाडौँमा अलिकति बज हुँदैमा we've done well भन्न सकिन्छ जस्तो मलाई लाग्दैन. I think we've not done well. We need to work much harder, and I don't think the leadership is there to guide us, support us, mentor us, and push us in the right direction right now. I mean, हामीलाई चाहिने के भने एउटा अब नयाँ leadership ले चाहिने केही गर्छ कि भन्ने अझ पनि आश हो. Anyways, I keep on talking. So.
होइन राइटली यु मेक मी हुन्छ नि हजुरको कुरा सुन्दा कति धेरै क्वेसन्सहरू किन टाइपको हुने के ट्रु. यो अघिकै क्वेसनलाई फेरि एकचोटि हजुरले जुन भन्नुभयो नि जस्तै फर इक्जाम्पल बिकज देयर सो मेनी लेन्सेस बट दे डु नट ह्याभ वान रेड टेप द्याट इज बाइन्डिङ एभ्री लेन्स भन्नेवाला कुरामा चाहिँ इज द्याट इज अल्सो वान अफ द रिजन वाइ दिस सोसाइटी सच अ लो ट्रस्ट सोसाइटी. एकदमै ट्रस्ट कम छ नि हामीलाई एकअर्का बिचमा.
I think what is happening
institution बिचमा.
Exactly. I think what is happening is that each of these lenses have their own world views, and the issue is त्यो बाइन्डिङ नभएकै कारणले गर्दाखेरि त्यो युनिटी नभएको कारणले गर्दा र चाहिँ नि सबैले we all need to move towards a certain vision and we need to execute that भन्ने कुरा नभएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि in fact नभएको मात्र होइन, there is negative mistrust. So one group लाई अर्को ग्रुपले अलि स्केप्टिकल तरिकाबाट हेर्नु. Too skeptical होइन. अब डियास्पोरालाई these guys are बाहिर गयो, मोज गर्यो होइन, पैसा कमायो भन्ने एटिट्युडले एउटा ग्रुपले हेर्ने. Why? We are all Nepalese. We can all come together. Their contributions can be so valuable for the nation. होइन? त्यो हिसाबले हेर्न पर्ने हो कि होइन?
एकदम.
अब तर हामीले कसरी हेर्छौँ भने डियास्पोराको बाहिर गए मान्छेहरू दे आर एउटा त देश छोडेर गयो, देशलाई माया गर्दैन भन्ने पहिला त त्यो पनि हुन्थ्यो. आई गेस दे इज स्टिल देयर, आई डोन्ट नो. अनि त्यसपछि दे आर भेरी सेल्फिस, सो दे डिडन्ट केयर अबाउट देयर नेसन, दे हेभ लेफ्ट भन्ने. that's ridiculous, अनि अब डियास्पोरा मेम्बर्सले पनि भित्र हेर्दाखेरि डिफ्रेन्ट ग्रुप्सहरूलाई अब इभन पब्लिक सेक्टरलाई पनि म त्यही भन्छु कि पब्लिक सेक्टरले कुनै कुनै एरियाजहरूमा राम्रो काम गरेर होला हेर्नु पर्यो बुझ्नु पर्यो maybe they are not communicating that well what are some of the good things that the public sector has done त्यो पनि बुझ्यो भने त्यही भएर त्यो कम्युनिकेसन बिट्विन द लेन्सेस लाई इम्प्रुभ गर्न हामीले सक्यो भने बिट्विन द इलिट काइन्ड अफ ऊ मात्रै अब इभन जर्नलिस्ट एन्ड
Media should play a big role.
media should play a big role, but I don't know. I think media might be aligned with one or the other groups.
Okay.
So
or media has a lens.
Or maybe media has a different lens, but probably not. I mean, but what I don't know. Media is one of those groups that can bring this all these different lenses together. So with really clear evidence-based and very sort of truthful reporting, होइन सो मिडियाको ठुलो रोल छ नि अब त्यहाँ पनि भएको छैन फेरि दिस देयर आर द मिडियाज हेभ बिन क्याप्चर्ड बाई पोलिटिकल ग्रुप्स एन्ड इट्स अल प्रिटी मेसी है सो त्यसले गर्दाखेरि पनि अर्को एउटा प्रब्लम जेनेरेट भएको छ वी रियली निड टु त्यही हो आई थिङ्क वी निड टु if we need to work on what the problems are, I think we need to focus on improving our human capital. That's no question about that. This is the most important thing. हामीले चाहिँ नि हाम्रो एजुकेसन सिस्टम्स इम्प्रुभ गर्नु पर्यो हामीले एजुकेसनमा के पढाउने भन्ने कुरा पनि इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ त्यसलाई इम्प्रुभ गर्नु पर्यो खाली पुरानो स्टाइलबाट पढाएर मात्र भएन खाली स्टुडेन्ट्सलाई क्लासरुममा छिराइदिने यताबाट निकाल्ने अनि 2-4वटा चाहिँ जागिरमा छिराइदिने अथवा एट बेस्ट एन्टरप्रेन्योर्स बनाउने होइन त्यतिले पुग्दैन आई थिङ्क इन द मोडर्न वर्ल्ड वी आर हामी ग्लोबलाइज्ड वर्ल्डमा आई थिङ्क वी निड टु अल्सो क्रिएट अ सिस्टम अफ एजुकेसन द्याट is directly addressing the issue of creating good citizens, good human beings who are responsible, who are willing to take the challenge of addressing some of the big complicated issues like climate change, like corruption, who are ethical. But त्यो गर्नको लागि हाम्रो एजुकेसन सिस्टमले के गरेछ What have we done to create a young generation that is going to be highly ethical, goes against corruption, deals with some of the big issues, is willing to take on these challenges? To values-based education नै हामीले build गर्नुपर्छ त्यही भएर त्यो खाली चाहिँ नि अलिकति पैसा ल्यायो डेभलपमेन्ट पार्टनर्सबाट अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ नि चाँडै स्कुलिङ गराउने यो गराउने ऊ गराउने भन्ने कुराले मात्र पुग्दैन एन्ड पिपल विल से ओ हाम्रो एउटा स्कुलमा चाहिँ नि बिजुली र धारा त छैन अब यो तपाईँले चाहिँ नि यस्तो कुराहरू गर्न कहाँ सकिन्छ र भन्ने कुरा नो यु क्यान इट्स नट अ इदर और यु हेभ टु डु अल अफ इट एट वान्स यु हेभ टु रियली वर्क on some of these fundamentals है एउटा त्यो एस्पेक्ट हो यो ह्युमन क्यापिटलमा त्यसैलाई सपोर्ट गर्ने र त्यसले सपोर्ट गर्ने डाइमेन्सन दि अदर पिलर आई थिङ्क इज रियली वर्किङ अन रिबिल्डिङ भन्छु म rebuilding our institutions in ways that
private ki public
both public private institutions and public private institutions that even 30-40 years ago there was some really they were established with a vision. Even the monarchy set them up. They were established with a vision, but they have really weakened and in some cases just crumbled. And as a result, हाम्रो सोसाइटीमा त्यो diversity of views, diversity of professions, those are all being very weakened. Okay? सबैले खाली पैसा कमाउन दौडेको छ, But if you look at some of the great developed countries, not everybody is running to make more and more money. I mean, people are poets, and people are artists, and singers and musicians, and vivinna sports.
And money come as a byproduct of being good at it.
And they should all be supported so that they can perform in those spaces. In big ways, sometimes competing internationally, regionally. अनि पो देशको एउटा गौरव बिल्ड हुन्छ.
अनि त्यो गर्ने प्रोसेसमा for them money becomes a it comes like just because all you have to be is best at it, money will come type को छ नि त हैन नेपालमा चाहिँ.
Yes, I mean, the issue is also, I mean, even that last sentence you're using, money is going to come as a byproduct. Why does it need to come? As long as you're able to do your good job and survive, and you have food on your table, it should be okay. If you are a great artist, you don't necessarily need that byproduct money to come through.
So त्यो एकदम elite lens भयो हैन.
Why?
किन भन्दाखेरि let's say from a lens of a struggling family, primary नै त्यही हो नि हैन.
That's why I'm saying that the issue is the public sector and the private sector philanthropists and whoever should have systems in place to support those initiatives, those people, those artists, those sportsmen and women. मैले भन्न खोजेको के भने, I'm not saying that they should struggle for the rest of their lives. I'm saying there should be a system put in place so that they don't need to struggle financially.
Exactly.
That the public sector and everyone should be supportive of that so that they can do their great work. भन्न खोजे. तर त्यो great work गर्नको लागि ठाउँ दिएको छ त अहिले भन्न खोजेको. त्यो भएको institutionsहरू पनि crumble गर्दै fizzle out bhayira. So you look at anything, I mean, you look at our museums, they are not doing well. You look at the Nepal Academy, it's not doing well. You look at our archives, it's in dismal shape. So how can we be proud as a nation when all these things are crumbling at that level? So every aspect ma institutions haru build garnu parne zaruri cha. In fact, last year's Nobel Prize was given to several scholars who are looking at how institutions are critical for building prosperity in countries. They were looking at global data and saying wherever there are strong institutions, countries have developed faster.
त्यसमा उ छैन just a percentage division of what amount of public institution, what amount of private institution. किन भन्दाखेरि when you look at countries like Gulf नै हेऱ्यो भने चाहिँ there are more public institutions हरु हैन. It's all country control, but then everybody is well off. So when you look at more of a countries with more capitalism principles हैन, more private institutions हरु are stronger. So त्यस्तो के उ बनाएको छ किन भन्दाखेरि नेपालमा चाहिँ I think दुईटै weak छ. त्यसमा पनि I think public institution झन् weak छ. हैन, an impression of you towards public institution is depressing. हैन. भनौँ न त्यो चाहिँ हामीले पनि the way I look at public institution is like हुन्छ नि जान नपर्यो हुन्थ्यो, टच पॉइन्ट पर्न नपर्यो हुन्थ्यो.
Absolutely. I don't know the numbers on what the balance should be and all that. I don't think there might even be such a proper certain kind of balance that is needed. Maybe these Nobel Prize winners have given us guidance. I haven't looked them up carefully. तर मैले भन्न खोजेको public private जहाँ सकिन्छ, if we could help to build those rebuild them, like पहिला TU मा पनि, within TU there used to be SIDA, which was the economic sort of think tank. There was Sinas, which was more on the social side, Serid, यो विभिन्न थियो है उनीहरूले अहिले चाहिँ नि अहिलेसम्ममा त दे शुड बी हमिङ अवे एन्ड दे शुड बी रिजनल पावर हाउसेस थिङ्क ट्याङ्क्स त्यस्तो हुनुपर्ने हो नि छैन है सेभरल अहिले 2-3वटा आई एम पार्ट अफ आइआइडिएस विच इज द लङ्गेस्ट
You are one of the founding members, होइन?
No. I'm not a founding member of IIDS, but more recently we founded with Swarnim Wagle, who's the chair, Biswas Kauchan ji, who's our executive director. We have reformulated the IIDS in a way where we are revamping it with different centers. So I think what you're talking about is. I was party to founding the Center for Human Assets. So similarly, there is the governance center, and then the economic center, and then there is likely to be this sustainability one and all that. So I think I'd like to think of us as one of the few that think tanks that we've been around since 1979. Big luminaries, Beg Bahadur Thapa and Kulshekharji and others set it up. And it's gone through thick and thin. But now we are once again reviving it under Swarnim's leadership. It has really taken off in a big way.
Demographic dividend sometimes, होइन? 24 majority of the people are young people, होइन? कस्तो कस्तो कुराहरू गर्न सकिन्थ्यो होला प्राइभेट साइडबाट होइन जसले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ वी क्यान मेक अ डेन्ट के अनि सो भोलिको दिनमा चाहिँ माथि टप डाउनबाट आयो भने पनि इट बिकम्स मच इजियर बिकज बटम अपबाट सुरु भइसकेको थियो कि बुझ्नु अहिले भन्नु खोजेको
बुझेँ मैले आई थिङ्क द्याट्स सच अ ग्रेट पोइन्ट अब टप डाउन सपोर्ट हुँदै नभइकन ब्रड स्विपिङ सोर्ट अफ पोलिसी इन्भाइरोमेन्ट राम्रो नभइकन बटम अपले मात्रै काम गर्न सक्छ भन्न त सकिन्छ जस्तो लाग्दैन मलाई है सो यु हेभ टु फिक्स बोथ साइड्स तर बटम अपबाट गर्ने हो भने वन्स अगेन आई मिन आई जस्ट हार्प अन दिस ओभर एन्ड ओभर हामीले फोकस गर्ने भनेको एजुकेसन को क्वालिटी इम्प्रुभ गर्ने नै हो र हामीले वर्क गर्ने भनेको स्किल्सको एरियामै काम गर्ने हो होइन सो आई मिन इफ द प्राइभेट सेक्टर क्यान कम इन अ बिग वे टु इम्प्रुभ द स्किल सेट्स अफ पिपल who are even leaving Nepal right now. I mean, they are leaving at almost 2,000.
3,000 per day.
3,000 per day, bhaisakyo? Okay, I had seen 2,000, but maybe your numbers are better. 2,000-3,000 per day leaving the country to work in variety of areas, from construction to... So, उनीहरूको skill sets लाई improve गर्न सक्यो भने they can demand better pay from wherever they are going. So, one, they could do that. And so, the more they can demand, the more remittance comes back into the country. So, that's good for the country. And then secondly, those who don't go, they will also deploy their own improved skills back here. अनि त्यसले गर्दाखेरि सो दोज लार्ज नम्बर्सलाई हामीले केटर गर्न पर्छ स्किल्स
यो भनेको त अब आई थिङ्क जो प्राइभेट सेक्टर एजुकेसनमा इन्भेस्टेड हुनुहुन्छ उहाँहरूले गर्ने
कुराहरू हो है उहाँहरूले चाहिँ नि अलिक ब्रोडर स्कोपमा गएर मेबी सम अफ देम क्यान कम टुगेदर मेबी दे क्यान डु इट इन्डिपेन्डेन्टली अब हस्पिटालिटी सेक्टरमा होस् अथवा चाहिँ नि कन्स्ट्रक्सनमा होस् वाट एभर इट इज. But IT is a big booming sector. Of course, that's a little bit higher level sector. And there also, I mean, even IIDS, we've done a study on that and we are following up. The government is very keen on the new framework that's coming out.
Did you know, of course you know, हजुरहरूले publish गरेको त्यो data changed everything.
Yes.
in a sense.
Including the recent
Yeah.
policy changes and all that.
Including, it gave a lot of confidence to diaspora people to set up a companies नेपालमा किन भन्दाखेरि maybe they saw already $500 million को transaction भइसकेको छ भने त
yes.
it gives people trust कि
Yes.
something is happening, that's why it's a $500 million होइन
Yes.
त्यो पनि formal मात्र, informal त काउन्टै गरेको छैन कतिपय कन्टेक्समा हुन्छ है. I think what you guys did, I think you guys really made a dent कि अब चाहिँ त्यसको ripple effectsहरू चाहिँ भइरहेको छ. Every different people is going to take a credit on a different angle होइन तर I think त्यो ripple effect चाहिँ हजुरले create चाहिँ गरिदिनु भयो.
Yeah. No, I think so I think we should really work on.
अनि त्यही जग्गा ठ्याक्क कस्तो दिमागमा कनेक्ट भयो मलाई, हजुरले त्यो गरिदिनु भयो. आई थिङ्क प्राइभेट सेक्टरको प्राइभेट सेक्टर केम टुगेदर, created different association, started lobbying and started making policy more business friendly होइन. त्यो प्योर bottom up approach हो नि त.
Yes, I think that's a great example of something that has worked in a good way. And अब त्यसको लागि some really well educated, well exposed, very modern, globalized group of people coming together and
doing a study
and working to also bridge that gap, bridge that communication gap. Okay, so हामीले चाहिँ नि पब्लिक सेक्टरलाई अलिकति इन्फ्लुएन्स गर्न पर्छ भनेर अगाडि गएको हो नि त.
तर गरिदिनु भयो प्राइभेट सेक्टरलाई. You made these tech companies really think hard कि oh my god, communal त we are bringing a good amount of money.
So it's like a sub lens that actually has worked. त्यस्तै गरेर so we need to expand that kind of work into other sectors होइन. अनि so त्यो
सो सोसाइटीमा एउटा रियल पिक्चर पेन्ट गरिदिए बापत यु क्यान एक्चुली मोटिभेटेड अर राइट अफ अ लट अफ राइट पिपल.
yes.
सो जुन कुरा चाहिँ टेक्निकली मिडियाले गरिदिनु पर्ने थियो होइन, विच इट इज नट डुइङ होइन, अर इट इज मेबी इट इज नट क्यापेबल अफ डुइङ.
Well, I mean, मिडियाले
किन
टेक्निकल वर्क त गर्न त्यतिको गर्ने काम नहोला होइन, बट कम्युनिकेटिङ द्याट wherever good technical work is happening, त्यसलाई पिकअप गरेर अनि कम्युनिकेट गर्ने चाहिँ नि आई थिङ्क मिडिया क्यान डु अ रियली गुड इम्पोर्टेन्ट जब इन द्याट.
or think tank like IITS होइन, if we could have more think tank like IITS होइन, stronger think tank, and if they do यस्तो रिसर्चहरू जहाँ चाहिँ they put a real picture and which is positive के भने चाहिँ maybe positive attract गर्ने त हो नि होइन.
Oh, absolutely.
Positivity make people come together and work for a common goal होइन.
Yeah, absolutely.
मलाई यो टेकको स्पेसबाट दुइटा दाइले भन्नुहुन्थ्यो कि अनु पहिला वी युज टु सी इच अदर एज अ कम्पिटिटर्स होइन, नाउ वी सी इच अदर्स एज
a group
के एज अ कम्युनिटी के
the pie can be bigger.
Exactly.
And everybody can benefit from that if we work together भन्ने सिचुएसन आयो.
भन्छ यो त बेस्ट बटम अप अप्रोच भएन.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So that's the kind of thing that needs to happen. Our global context is changing very rapidly होइन. अब झन् अहिले जस्तो अब US elections भनौँ होइन, all these things can change the global environment also. COVID भयो होइन, विभिन्न कुरा भयो. So हाम्रो नेपाली even business leadership has to really be attuned to that. They must be able to see खालि नेपाल centric भएर नेपाललाई हेरेर मात्र बसेर. So IT is a good example where everything is connected to the rest of the world. होइन. So similarly अरू एरियाजमा पनि there is so many of these regional connections, international connections, network needed, all of this. So this is one of the reasons why हाम्रो Leadership Academy नेपालमा चाहिँ, I mean, our focus has been to really focus on building that, providing that exposure to the top, even to the top leaders, business leaders in Nepal. होइन उहाँहरूलाई they are already educated, they are already very accomplished, but they still need to keep abreast with the latest thinking, latest अहिलेको चाहिने ग्लोबल चेन्जेसहरू के छ भन्ने कारणले गर्दाखेरि we try to provide that platform for them. So I mean whether by having them go to some of the regional universities or to internationally well-established universities like Rice, that's what we are trying to do.
एउटा भनाइ छ नि जस्तै फर इक्जाम्पल पिपल हु गेट इन्टु एन अन्टरप्रिनरसिप एट द लेटेस्ट स्टेज अफ देयर करियर दे बिकम सक्सेसफुल फास्टर भन्छ नि होइन आई फिल लाइक ल्यान्ड इज वान अफ यर एन्टरप्रिनियल भेन्चर होइन अनि यु स्टार्टेड ल्यान्ड वेन कति भयो 7 वर्ष भयो
7 years.
7 years भयो हुन त हजुरले आफ्नो एज डिस्क्लोज गरिसक्नु भयो सो वी क्यान क्यालकुलेट
Yeah, when I left the bank, the World Bank, I joined 2 organizations. One is IIDS, and the other is founded with some other mentors and colleagues who are very supportive, the Leadership Academy.
त्यो भित्र केही हुटहुटी थियो कि मैले आई हेभ स्टिल नट डन इनफ आई थिङ्क आई नो सो मच एन्ड आई थिङ्क आई निड टु डु मोर वाला हो किन भन्दाखेरि मेबी हजुर त मजाले यत्रो 23-24 वर्ष वर्ल्ड ब्याङ्कमा काम गरेको मान्छे चिल भएर बस्न सकिन्थ्यो होला नि त होइन अन अ बिच त्यो मुभीवाला हुन्छ नि होइन एउटा ककटेल खाँदै होइन नट डुइङ त्यो
I mean, that's not something that I think I would do very well. I think केही न केही गरिराख्न नयाँ नयाँ कुरा सोच्न अरू similarly excited mindsहरूसँग चाहिने engage गरिरहन चाहिने interest भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि. So some of our colleagues at LAN, at IIDS are just similar in our attitude, our thought process, our engagement, our wanting to just keep our discussions alive and dialogue and debates and all that. So त्यो गरिरहन interest भए मान्छे which I am, it'll be very hard for me to just go to the beach and no more than a few days, I think, is what I think. I mean, I was trying to find something where I could do something that is very small and meaningful, not try something very big and that might be too difficult to do. So small and meaningful would be, okay, well, let's work with one business leader at a time, one participant into our program at a time. If we can provide very high quality exposure and training, every person that leaves might feel they've learned something, that was a good experience. भन्ने होस् भन्ने हिसाबबाट land create भएको हो. So it's something very, very specific. It's small. It's not very large. But you're right, it's a entrepreneurial sort of venture. It's unlikely it'll make money in the way banks make money, but it's sustaining itself, and it is likely to grow in different ways. So त्यो एउटा भयो. अर्को चाहिँ नि अब यही policy angle-बाट IIDS यिनीहरूमा चाहिँ नि it's as you know, I mean we are doing very interesting work. More recently we did a study on the diaspora, the Nepalese diaspora in the US. So this is the first of its kind. It was supported very much by our previous ambassador to the US, Professor Sridhar Khatri, and financed by the Asia Foundation, to look at and create for the first time a baseline data on how many Nepalese are there, when did they come to the US, what do they do, what kind of professions are they involved in, men, women, um, how much money do they make, and how much money do they send back to Nepal. And that was also, there's a piece of information there there was a lot of people thought, oh, in the U.S., we don't get a whole lot of money from the U.S. in remittance. But it turns out in 2023, we sent $1.3 billion, which is about 1/10 of the remittance amount, of the total remittance amount from the U.S. So that is pretty significant.
Considering the number of people, right?
Yeah, considering the number of people, which is somewhere in the formal number that we have been analyzing is about 200,000 people. I think there might be a few more who are not legally there, but those are not counted.
How do you get the resources to do such a massive research? Talking to 200,000 people is quite a lot of work, no?
No. We didn't. We analyzed the data of the U.S. Census,
Hey, okay.
which tells us a lot about Nepalese in the U.S. So that was hardly ever been done. We did that, but we added another element, which is actually sending questionnaires and interviewing about 1,200 additional people, Nepalese, in different walks of life in the U.S. So 1200 भनेको good big number. It gives us a sense of
Where we really are.
where we are, what we do, and all of that. So त्यो गरेको हो हामीले. So
ओके कतिको गाह्रो हुँदो रहेछ त नेपालमा अन्टरप्रेन्योरल भेन्चर सुरु गर्न आफ्टर अलमोस्ट 24-25 years of amazing network in a global sphere के for someone like you who is such a highly connected होइन someone like you who used to fund all the initiative होइन नेपालमा एउटा अन्टरप्रेन्योरल भेन्चर सुरु गर्नको लागि चाहिँ कतिको च्यालेन्जेसहरू हुँदो रहेछ त or what's your take on this? Your last 7 years मा चाहिँ
yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough in the sense I think most of the issues are related to what is possible or what is not in your own mind. When we first came and said our programs are going to be a bit costly, significantly more costly.
how costly are they?
Well, it depends. It depends on. I mean, if people are going to the U.S., it's much more costly. But if there are programs in Nepal, they're less. Online, it's somewhere in between. But when we initially said that, people told us, "Oh, in Nepal, people don't even come to training if you pay them." So forget charging them money and then getting them to come and learn. And that was not correct. There are, of course, in the banking sector, there are requirements for training, requirements to spend certain amounts of money for training. Even in other companies, they are interested now to send their to get that exposure. So we had to focus more on explaining what that training is and what it does to you. And therefore, spending whatever you would spend is worth doing. So that, I think, was and continues to be the biggest challenge, which is really explaining to people that this training is beneficial for you because of A, B, C, D, and this is why it is worth your while to spend your time and resources on it. Not explaining that very well is going to be is the issue. Any company that's unable to do that very well are those that are probably unlikely to succeed in this space.
Are you guys being able to do that effectively? Explaining in
I think that's the hardest job for us. I mean, in some spaces we do a little bit better. In some other spaces we don't. It's in some spaces that we are just shut off. Don't even come near us. We don't need to. We don't need to talk to you. So it all depends. But we'll keep trying. We'll keep trying because we see the value that we bring to the table, and that value translating into something good for the person, the institution, and the country, all together. I think it really helps. It has a ripple effect for everybody. The person who's taking it, and then the institution benefits from it, and then when institutions are highly exposed and educated, then they also have a ripple positive effect on the country.
Just a random thought out of my mind. Since Nepal is on a very early stage, we have more small institutions than the bigger ones. हुन्छ नि, would not it be nice to also have something like this for startup founders, for early age entrepreneurs? Because maybe हाम्रो चाहिँ बिग्रेको पनि यो pipeline हो जस्तो लाग्छ कि we don't have big institution because we have never supported small institution to grow big. होइन, one of the reason why we don't have a एकदमै is a big institution because they didn't had a very organic growth नि त. त्यो कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ maybe a lot of smaller business died when they were small, or they get stuck to the smallness of running a business. हुन्छ नि, I don't know if I'm making sense. होइन, तर
How to get them to grow one day.
yeah,
No, that's very important. It's very important, and that's the kind of area that LAN would very much be interested in.
and you grow an institution by growing its people, its
Yes,
leaders. होइन,
that's it.
अनि एजुकेसन वाइज त आई थिङ्क जे भयो भइसक्यो अब हामीलाई त.
Yeah.
फर पिपल लाइक अस, फर पिपल अफ आवर एज, होइन, वी अलरेडी ह्याभ आवर के भन्छ एजुकेसन एज इन फर्मल एजुकेसन डन. होइन, नाउ इट्स अल अबाउट ट्विकिङ द्याट. अब
Yeah.
ट्विक गर्ने होला नि त, किन अब अहिले जो स्कुल लेभलमा छ उनीहरूलाई त ऊ गर्न पाइयो, उनीहरूलाई रिफर्म गर्न पाइयो. अब हाम्रो त बेस बिल्ड भइसकेको छ, हामीलाई चाहिँ ट्विक गर्न पऱ्यो. होइन, अनि त्यो चाहिँ इट वुड बी रियली नाइस टु इफ ल्यान्ड कुड कम अप विथ समथिङ द्याट इज मोर फोकस टु ग्रोइङ दिस स्मलर कम्पनीज इन्टु अ बिग वान्स. हुन्छ नि, त्यो पनि एउटा.
I think we have worked with some young entrepreneurs who have decided they should come all the way to Houston for this exposure and for networking and all that. Young small companies, founders, they've joined us there, and so
Back in US.
back in the US, and they've benefited a lot, I think.
These are Nepali people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Running companies in US?
No, running companies in Nepal, and they wanted to have that exposure, so they joined us. And
But कतिपय कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ people might not be able to afford that to fly
so
to.
I think it's important for us to think innovatively about how to
Yeah.
do what you're talking about much more in a larger scale and more affordable,
With an intention of growing them, okay?
with the intention of
Not just them, but also the institution they represent.
helping.
I don't know how.
helping them too. Yeah.
I'm just.
No,
throwing
that's a challenge question for us. Yeah.
You have been focusing quite a lot on adaptive learning, leadership, होइन? हुन त हजुरले आई थिङ्क ल्यान्डले गर्न खोजिरहेको पनि त्यही हो जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई. Could you go a bit deeper on what do you actually mean by adaptive leadership?
I think ल्यान्डमा पनि त्यो कुरा धेरै नै भइरहने कुरा हो. Adaptive leadership is a concept that came out of a few scholars who were looking into this space, your business development र business leadership को space बाट. यसमा चाहिँ नि कुरा के भने, and this is applicable to any other areas as well. It just means that, get away from this thinking that leadership is position based. Okay, so if you're if you have a position, then you're a leader. Someone who is a president is a leader. भन्ने बाट निस्केर certain objective लाई central राखेर जसले जुन पोजिसनमा बस्ने मान्छेले पनि त्यो ओब्जेक्टिभतिर अगाडि बढ्नलाई आफ्नो टिम, आफ्नो कम्पनी, आफ्नो कम्युनिटीलाई लैजान्छ, त्यसलाई एड्याप्टिभ लिडर भन्छौँ हामी. So you could be a very, low in the rung, low level employee of a company, but that person can also be an adaptive leader. आफ्नै टिमभित्र अनि आफ्नै कम्पनीभित्र, depending on the kind of impact that person can have towards the ultimate goals of that institution or organization. So त्यसले गर्दाखेरि what an adaptive leader does is to work in transforming their own behavior and the behavior of the teams and their organizations towards a certain goal. It doesn't matter how. So they're not in the position to do it. तर कहिलेकाहीँ हुन्छ नि, कहिलेकाहीँ a young person might come up with a bright idea, and then somebody will pick it up and the team will say, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and then that person just keeps driving it and it becomes a kind of a major flagship program हुन जान्छ त्यो suddenly.
त्यो केसेस छ नि, आई थिङ्क Google Chrome is one of those cases in Google, होइन?
Something like that.
It came out of like हुन्छ नि एउटा एकदमै सानो
out of the blue, and so those are adaptive leaders. I mean, just to give I was just trying to give you an example. That's what we mean by that. So Nepal jasto ठाउँमा, which is highly hierarchical, traditionally hierarchical, and traditionally ठुलो मान्छेले भनेपछि सानो मान्छेले सुन्न पर्छ, मान्नु पर्छ, बोल्न मिल्दैन, क्वेसन गर्नु हुँदैन, ठुलो मान्छेले भनेको कुरालाई चुप लाएर सुन्नु पर्छ भन्ने जुन ट्रेडिसनल भ्यू छ, we have to start to break that, and young people can have great ideas, होइन? And so त्यो हिसाबमा त्यो एड्याप्टिभ लिडरसिपको कन्सेप्टलाई अलिकति बढी हामीले पुश गर्ने कारण चाहिँ त्यो हो.
You make me remember a quote that was taught to us in our school. हाम्रो सिस्टर हुनुहुन्थ्यो स्कुलमा. I come from a Christian school, होइन? अनि त्यहाँ सिस्टरले चाहिँ के भन्नुहुन्थ्यो भन्दाखेरि, नथिङ रियली चेन्जेस until and unless you feel the need from inside भन्नुहुन्थ्यो कि, होइन? अनि अब यो एड्याप्टिभ लिडरको निड चाहिँ हाम्रो इन्डिभिजुअल टिम मेम्बरमा कसरी जगाउन सकिन्छ त? यो पनि अघिकै क्वेसनसँग रिलेट भयो, बटम अप अप्रोच, होइन? I think knowingly, unknowingly, subconsciously, म आज एकदमै bottom of approach.
No, because you are an example of that emerging leadership, right? I mean, leadership in this space, to build it up. And each of you and us that work in our spaces are trying to do that bottom up thing.
So my question is, how do we make our team members on a maybe lower end or middle end to feel the need within themselves ki, okay, I need to have this adaptive leadership in me. I don't really need to be a leader to act like a leader.
Yeah, so it's a culture change. It's that's where some of our training programs
Anup, take that program.
Come to our next our program. But I think it's very helpful to move out of, and this is important for the leaders of the company or organizations to also begin to get that culture down to all throughout the organization, right? That culture has to change, which is that everybody has the ability to say something. They can speak their minds without retribution. बोल्यो भने भनेको कुरा चाहिँ नि अलिकति out of sync with the leadership हुँदैमा चाहिँ नि I might be fired भन्ने डर, त्यस्तो नहुने खालको एउटा कल्चर डेभलप हुनु पर्यो नि त.
साइकोलोजिकल सेफ्टी, होइन?
त्यो चाहियो, होइन? But there are all different angles to that, which is usually touched upon during in our programs in very nice, interesting ways.
So people who are watching this, if they get curious about what land really is,
Oh yeah,
how do they get to know more about it?
they should contact us.
Where should they contact you?
I mean, the first is simply to write to us info@leadersnepal.com.
Okay, info@leadersnepal.com.
Yeah, they can go to our website,
Leaders Nepal.
leadersnepal.com,
.com. Okay.
and then reach out to us.
Okay.
We would be delighted to talk to them.
यति लामो कुरा गरिसकेपछि होइन मलाई चाहिँ आई थिङ्क आई वान्ट टु गेट अ लिटल बिट अफ क्युरियस अबाउट हजुरको फ्यामिली होइन ट्राभलिङ बिट्विन ब्याक एन्ड फोर्थ सो यु डु यु ट्राभल विथ यर फ्यामिली
Yes. Well, family meaning my wife,
Okay.
who was who I have known from the time we were in college together here, and then she, of course, has been with me throughout.
हजुरले भेट्न त उतै भेट्नु हो
No. When I was in college here,
Bachelor-ma.
bachelor's degree ma. Then we went to the US together, and we've been together. And she also travels back and forth with me. We're sort of always together, and she has a background in science. A bachelor's degree in microbiology, but has spent most of her time in the US wherever she could, and even in places like Yemen, teaching young kids. So she was school teacher in different places. But now she doesn't do that anymore, and we do travel back and forth. I can tell you a little bit about my son, who is a filmmaker.
Okay.
And is doing a lot of work in the US, but he has very keen interest in Nepal as well. One of his main projects that he did as sort of one of his first projects was a documentary about Upper Mustang, somebody taking a wind power, developing wind power, windmill, and a makeshift windmill in Upper Mustang, beyond Lomantang. And now he's doing a documentary on how the stolen images, how statues and other arts were stolen out of Nepal, and how they are coming back now, and with a particular focus on the return of the Lakshmi Narayan statue from the Dallas Museum back to Patko Toll, where it was re-established.
Okay.
So he's working on those kinds of documentaries, as he also works in a lot of projects within the US. My daughter is a medical doctor, and she is currently at the Beth Israel Harvard Hospital, where she is specializing in neurology. So she's very busy there. So that's my family.
कति diaspora people who came back to Nepal, one of the reason when I asked them what was one of the major reason for coming back to Nepal, भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ उहाँहरूले दिने एन्सर चाहिँ किड्स थियो कि because they didn't felt confident about raising their kids in US होइन
Oh,
अनि वेल त्यो पर्सपेक्टिभमा चाहिँ आई थिङ्क यु हेभ रेज्ड यो किड्स युएसमै होइन त्यस्तो मैले कहिलेकाहीँ अब त्यसरी अब डाइरेक्ट सोधेको थिएन आज मलाई सोध्ने मौका पाएँ किन भन्दाखेरि समबडी वेज एक्चुली अब कतिले त छोडेर आउनुभयो किन भन्दाखेरि युएसमा ग्रो नगर्ने नेपालमै ग्रो गर्ने भन्ने कुरा भयो होइन त्यो चाहिँ अब जो आउनुभएको छैन छोडेर होइन कसरी त्यो नेपाली कल्चर नेपाली नेस हुन्छ नि कसरी प्रिजर्भ गर्न सकिन्छ या गरिराख्नु भएको छ या हजुरले गर्नुभयो होइन अमङ यो न्युअर जेनेरेसन किन भन्दाखेरि यो कुरा चाहिँ एकदमै इन्डियन कल्चरमा हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ जति नै जेनेरेसन भयो भने पनि इन्डियन कल्चरमा चाहिँ दे हेभ डन देयर होमवर्क टु मेक स्योर द कल्चर इज अलाइभ के तर नेपालमा चाहिँ अब त्यो पनि देखिन्छ नि त लाइक प्यारेन्ट्स आर सो प्राउड द्याट देयर किड्स डु नट स्पिकिङ नेपाली होइन त्यो हजुरको चाहिँ कस्तो रह्यो अप्रोच
I think one of the most important things, जस्तो लाग्छ है मलाई, is to provide to the children who are diaspora मा बस्ने childrenहरू that are growing up in a place like the US, is how they will absorb everything their parents believe in. And so if the belief is that, Nepal is not our home, and we are here to stay in the US, and this is where our home is, and we need to adapt only to the US, and that our families and friends back home might not be the number one priority. I'm not saying that's the case for most Nepalese. I'm just saying if that is the case, then they will absorb that. And so they might only speak in English. At home, there is no Nepali. And in the end, their friends and the culture of the US basically takes over. But if the attitude is one in which, no, Nepal is our primary place from where we came, we are here, of course, we need to adapt here, but we value everything Nepali very, very much. भन्ने एउटा ब्याकग्राउन्डमा त्यो एटिट्युड छ भने they will absorb that. And so there's more easy for them in that context to learn Nepali and then to learn everything about Nepal and keep in touch with their families and all that. In my case, thankfully, I mean, both my son and daughter speak impeccable Nepali, just like you and me. And so they both keep a lot of interest in Nepal. तर उनीहरूको केसमा अलिकति फरक के भयो भने they were also they didn't grow up in their most formative time. They were not only in the US. They were also in Yemen, in Tanzania, in Nepal. So the exposure outside of the US also affected them quite a lot. And when we were in places like Yemen or Tanzania, we also had other Nepalese in the house, who came to help us and all that, who were speaking in Nepali.
Okay.
So त्यसले गर्दाखेरि पनि they learned Nepali throughout from the very early years, and they kept up, and we kept pushing that also consciously also at home. So त्यसले गर्दाखेरि I think at some point they reach a threshold, they are perfect speakers, and then after that you don't need to worry. And so it's much easier for those kids who can speak Nepali to keep in better touch with their families back home here, their grandparents, their their cousins and all that, and that's so important. Our diaspora study showed that we asked a question in our diaspora study that said, how many times do you communicate with people in Nepal? And believe it or not, almost 50% of Nepalese call home every day. Every day. So that tells me something that I always believed in. I always wanted to call home when I went in 1985. It was very expensive to call home in those days. No internet, nothing. I mean, every minute was like $3, $4, $5. But now you can call home so often, and most Nepalese do. I think the next number, if you add the two numbers, like I call home every day to once every few days or something, it reaches like 80% or something. It goes very high. So it tells us that Nepalese are very connected or want to connect with home.
If that's the case, why there is a gap, like you mentioned earlier, ki there's a gap in a way we look at diasporas, and if the communication is so frequent.
Yeah, well, the communication I think is with their families.
But
But
does not that influence the surroundings? If I have a family back home, that particular person has a potential to influence his peers and friends about how you think of
it
diaspora.
should, but I don't know. I mean, that's a question to that's a research question. I think we need to find out more about. I think we talked about these lenses. I think we need to go back and dig a little bit deeper. I'm not an expert in this area. I was just talking to you in a gut way in terms of how I see things, and and I think we can do a little bit more digging and more research on how these lenses interact with one another and what is influencing those lenses and how communication media might help in bridging those gaps. Yeah.
I had an amazing time, sir.
Thank you so much. I did too.
The last, including today, the last 3 meetings were really insightful. And I think meeting एउटा भनाइ छ नि, there is never a person you don't learn something you meet हो कि के भन्छ कि एउटा के भनाइ छ, जसलाई भेट्यो पनि केही न केही चाहिँ you take away a part of them भन्छ कि होइन. अनि it's a pleasure to के भन्छ to have that opportunity of sitting with you and drinking couple of orange juices. होइन.
Yeah.
अनि learned a lot from you, sir.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity.
अनि I'm not sure if I did a justice to the knowledge, the experience you had, होइन, किन भन्दाखेरि त्यो
No, of course. No, it's great. I think it's a great opportunity for me to be able to just sit and chat like this. I'd never done this before. So thank you.
I'll find more reasons to have you again on the podcast.
Okay, great.
मलाई चाहिँ जहाँ जाँदै हजुरको केही मेसेज सुन्न मन लाग्यो विथ कन्टेक्स्ट चाहिँ म हजुरलाई के दिन्छु भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो अडियन्सको कन्टेक्स्ट होइन. हाम्रो एराउन्ड लाइक 50% इज अबभ 24 to 35, त्यसपछि 18 to 24 होइन. 40% अफ आवर अडियन्सेस आर बेस्ड इन युएस, युके, अस्ट्रेलिया, मोर फ्रम अ वेस्टर्न डेभलप इकोनोमिज. अनि सो वाट वुड यु लाइक टु गिभ एडभाइस टु आवर young audience both in Nepal and outside?
That's a very big question. I think my advice is simply that they should just keep at whatever they're doing. I mean, and push hard. Don't be disappointed and discouraged. At our age, we've gone through a lot of thick and thins, and these are bound to happen. Nepal needs everyone. I mean, that's the other angle, right? Nepal needs everyone's inputs for it to grow and develop and prosper. So anything anyone can contribute, even small things, big things, they should join forces. They should come together. They should contribute, get excited about the future, and move forward. I mean, that's I don't know. I mean, that's a very broad kind
Let
of.
me do a follow-up question this way.
Yeah.
So for a lot of youth who are extremely demotivated with our leadership,
Yes.
with our existing policies, हुन्छ नि होइन, and then उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ के सल्लाह दिन चाहनुहुन्छ?
Yes, I think we're all demotivated.
No, for you
with
who are going to make some major decision in their life,
with
होइन?
with the leadership.
यो 24-25 वर्षको भाइ बहिनीहरू जसले चाहिँ अब मेजर डिसिजन्सहरू लिन गइराख्नु भएको छ आफ्नो लाइफमा,
Yeah.
and they're extremely disappointed with our leadership, उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ के सल्लाह दिन चाहनुहुन्छ?
I think they should continue to make their decisions if they feel that they can find good work and create new work for themselves here. They should go ahead and do that. If not, of course, they can leave and contribute outside, earn because they have to in that context, right? So I don't think they should be. I think they should look at what is right in front of them, rather than worry too much about the political context and trying to fix the nation and so on and so forth. I think hopefully the leadership will change in Nepal as well. Everything changes in life. So the older leadership that have not delivered very well, for sure, I think by anyone's definition, they will retire, and the new leadership will certainly do better. So the future is bright. We have to keep that in mind. We certainly have to think and believe that the future is bright. We certainly believe that some of the new leadership that are coming up, the likes of Swarnim, the likes of Sumana and others, they have to and they will perform much better for our country than the previous leadership.
One more follow-up question.
Yeah.
So sorry for this.
Yeah.
Someone like you have committed almost 23-24 years in one organization, होइन? अहिलेको नयाँ जेनेरेसनहरूसँग चाहिँ काम गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मैले एउटा देख्ने प्याटर्न र ट्रेन्ड चाहिँ के हो भन्दाखेरि वान दे वान्ट टु फिगर आउट अल देयर लाइफ टुडे, होइन? कि वाट एम आई गोइङ टु डु, वाट आइ एम गोइङ टु अचिभ, होइन? आई थिङ्क आई हेभ अ सिमिलर प्रब्लम एज वेल. आई ह्याड मच हायर डिग्रीमा, तर अहिले चाहिँ मोर मेरो डाउन भइसकेको छ. One, they want to figure out everything today. Second, I think the lack of commitment to a skill, to a work, and then willing to work on it and improve on it. Okay, for somebody who has committed that amount of time, एउटा इन्स्टिट्युसनमा एउटा आइडियामा, होइन, त्यो जेनेरेसनलाई चाहिँ के भन्ने होला त, जो चाहिँ एउटा कुनै पर्टिकुलर कुरामा चाहिँ कमिट गर्नको लागि चाहिँ डराइरहेको छ, and they are always hopping among different things.
I think you are absolutely right. That is probably the most important advice, and you already answered it, I think. I think the most important thing for young people to do is to find out what you're good at, people say what you're passionate about, but I don't know. I don't know that word, but sure, what you're excited by, right? And what you're good at, and build on that consistently, and then use that as a way to build your business or to build your career, whatever it is, right? And not to hop around and do too many things and try to do too many things just because this thing didn't work in a matter of days or weeks or months or a few years of trying. I'm going to do something else. I know there is concern on financials, and you need to set up your family, and you need to have your resources in order and all that. But in the long run, doing that is not going to be very helpful. At least that is my understanding. Having lived for as long as I have, I've seen young people. I've seen my own, all the way from the time of my own friends to the younger generation. Anyone who's stuck to their interest areas and just built on it, worked hard and improving themselves, improving their performance in that area, they've done much better. Rather than people who just are jumping around. And this goes back to the point that you mentioned, which is if you work hard in your own area, then resources will flow. Support will come. Others will support you. The network will grow, right? That's coincidental. It'll happen. It'll automatically happen. It's almost like somebody said, well, make that commitment and the universe will answer, right? So that kind of a thing. If you don't, then you're always hopping around. The people around you are confused. You're going to confuse everybody around you. That means nobody knows who you really are and what you believe in and what you want to focus on. And so they cannot commit their own support to you,
Okay.
right? And you cannot attain and improve and go forward without the support of others. Everyone is supported by others. It might be your families, it might be your friends, your colleagues. Alone, you cannot achieve anything. It's only with the support of everyone. And you don't want to confuse everyone by trying to do too many things, and nobody then is able to come in and say, okay, I want to help you get to this. So that's basically my quick sort of
Now I'm going to throw you one last personal question.
yeah.
That I think a lot of other people can also relate to, होइन?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me build a context, होइन? For people of, भनौँ न, जस्तै अब कन्सिडरिङ हाम्रो मेजर अडियन्स चाहिँ 25देखि 35 हुनुहुन्छ, होइन? फर यो एज ग्रुपको मान्छेहरू who have done something in life, who have achieved something, not something that they thought they will, but then एउटा मोडरेट सक्सेस पाउनु भएको छ, होइन? अनि नेपालमै बसिराख्नु भएको छ अरे. तर नाउ दे आर काइन्ड अफ स्टक कि मेरो ग्रोथ यहीँ हो त, कि मेरो पोटेन्सियल यहीँ हो त, किन भन्दाखेरि मेरो इकोनोमीले, मेरो देशले यो मभन्दा बेसी मलाई दिन सक्दैन त, सबै छोडिदिउँ कि, किन भन्दाखेरि मतलब लाइफको 30-35को एज भनेको चाहिँ त्यति लेट पनि होइन, त्यति अर्ली पनि होइन, होइन? सो त्यो कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ मैले त्यो म्याक्सिमम् ग्रोथ पोटेन्सियल हिट गर्न सक्दैन कि भन्ने फिलिङ भएको लिडर्सहरू मैले देखेको छु. अनि कतै कतै ममा पनि छ, होइन? हु हेभ अचिभ अ मोडरेट सक्सेस, हु हेभ भ्यालिडेटेड कि देयर स्किल सेट एक्चुली हुन्छ नि ब्रिङ रिजल्ट्स, होइन? तर त्यो आफ्नो हाइएस्ट पोटेन्सियल हिट गर्न सक्दैन कि बाई द टाइम आइएम 60, बाई द टाइम आइएम 70, बाई द टाइम आइएम 50, एन्ड मेबी देयर इज अ हायर अपर्च्युनिटी कस्ट भन्ने थट प्रोसेसमा भएको मान्छेहरूलाई चाहिँ के सल्लाह दिनुहुन्छ? Was I able to make?
I think it's the same thing. I mean, the question is how you define success. You know, are you defining success simply by how much money you're making or how much fame you already have achieved? Or are you defining success by do you feel good about doing something? And that you do regularly, for example. And that's a big difference, because if you're looking for more money or for fame and all that, then you might feel you're stuck. You're not achieving much, and life is never always up. You know, you're suddenly, Mark Zuckerberg and those types of people who are suddenly become billionaires and all that. And I think that's sort of the coloring that a lot of young people go out with, which is that they need like instant, everything is instant, and I need to be very, accomplished very fast and so on and so forth. But if your definition of success is really about, I need to be a better person and I need to perform my work better than I did yesterday, and I feel good that I have performed better today than I did yesterday, then there is no limit to continuing to improve yourself. So your yardstick is simply your own performance from yesterday to today to tomorrow to the day after. And you can just continue to improve yourself in variety of ways and feel good about that. And feel good that you're contributing to the lives of people, and feel great that one step at a time you are impacting people and in the space that you are. So I think it all depends on helping young people to define what success is also a task, I think. Of course, again, that's for the leadership, but and for more senior people and for parents and for mentors, for them to say, hey, don't rush. What you're doing is great. And continue to work hard. And that's the impact you're having. that's the impact you're having over a long period of time. The impact will show over a very long period of time, not in the amount of money you'll have in your bank account necessarily. That might also happen, and fame, that might also happen, but you've just been touching one life at a time, and that itself is good enough. It's more than good enough.
I think I got my answer.
Yeah.
So, so जाँदा जाँदै we have a small gift.
Okay.
हाम्रो one of our friend, he is an amazing entrepreneur.
Okay.
होइन, he has उहाँले चाहिँ ललितपुरमा एउटा 12 रोपनी जग्गा लिज लिएर रोज फार्मिङ गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ.
Oh, wow.
होइन, and he comes from a finance background.
Okay.
He does not really come from agriculture background. अनि अहिले चाहिँ एन्ड टु एन्ड गरेर राख्नुभएको छ. आफै उमार्ने,
Okay.
अनि आफै डेलिभरी गर्ने, आफ्नै अनि मोस्टली उहाँले चाहिँ नेपालभन्दा बाहिर बसेको नेपालीहरूले चाहिँ उहाँको सर्भिस लिएर आफ्नो घर परिवारलाई चाहिँ फुल गिफ्ट दिँदो रहेछ होइन. अनि
Okay.
उहाँले चाहिँ मलाई
Wow.
अनुप सर, हामीले यो फ्लावर र प्लान्ट गिफ्टिङ कल्चर चाहिँ कर्पोरेटमा पनि लिएर आउनु पऱ्यो भन्ने कन्टेक्समा चाहिँ लेट्स कोलाबोरेट भनेर एउटा उहाँले हामीलाई सपोर्ट गर्नुभएको छ.
That's
सो
fantastic.
दिस इज फर यु.
This is fantastic.
अनि
Thank you
एउटा
so much.
प्लान्ट पनि छ
Okay.
हजुरको घरको लागि
Okay.
होइन. अनि
Great.
उहाँले चाहिँ हामीलाई एउटा कुपन कोड दिनुभएको छ, डुवर्स 10 भनेर. सो फर एभ्रिबडी इज वाचिङ दिस, इफ यु युज डुवर्स 10 यु विल गेट 10% डिस्काउन्ट एभ्री टाइम यु के भन्छ सेन्डिङ अ गिफ्ट फ्लावर to your friends and family, or you are doing a corporate gifting to your employees or your stakeholders and partners. So this is for you, sir.
Fantastic.
So
Thank you so
supporting
much.
amazing local entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much.
So for everybody watching this, thank you so much. यदि यहाँसम्म हेरिसक्नु भयो भने you have really got that patience. We'll link सरको LinkedIn below. मैले भनिरहेको हुन्छु कि if you have found the right approach of reaching out to the people respond. मैले सरलाई LinkedIn मै भेटाएको, and I think he responded.
Yeah.
We had an amazing chat. So reach out to people. अनि हुन त क्यामेरा अगाडि just two of us talking in front of a camera, but behind the computer screen, behind the camera, there are amazing people making sure the work is coming out great. So thanks to them. I'll also like to thank our production company, WeFindUs, for making this happen. We are one of the largest content producer, private B2B content producer in the country, one of the largest podcast producers. So if you are looking to start your own content creation journey for your company, for your institution, and if you want to connect with your sales, with your output, we can definitely help. Tala link, so please do reach out to us. More than happy to sit with you and help you understand content for your business or anything that you want to achieve. Iti bande, we'll be back again with another amazing guest, another amazing conversation. Please like, share, and subscribe, because this content might reach right people and change somebody's perspective. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll be back again with another amazing guest, another amazing conversation. Till then, you guys take care. Bye bye.